ConnectWise webinar. Basically, this is going to be a little bit different than some of the other webinars that we've done up until this point. I was very intrigued to see that over half of you, this was your first webinar, the QuoteWerks webinar. So this is going to be a little bit different for both of us here. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with a short PowerPoint just to go over some of the newer features with QuoteWerks, just so you know what's available for you. Then we're going to do a quick demo of creating a quote in QuoteWerks, what it looks like inside of ConnectWise, and then accepting it through QuoteValet, winning it in ConnectWise, and then creating a project as well. So that way you can see that whole workflow. Then we're going to talk about setting up the integration with ConnectWise. It's not going to be very in-depth. It's going to be enough to get you started, and then we're going to talk about what options are available for you in setting up the integration, answer any questions that you have about setup, because I'm sure there's going to be a ton there, and then we're going to go into a more in-depth demo of the integration. So we're going to go step by step through the creation of that quick demo quote and see why we did certain things, how things were set up inside of QuoteWerks to go over to ConnectWise. And then we're going to answer questions about the integration and workflow in general, and then breaking it down to generalized questions, basically anything you want to know about QuoteWerks. So that's pretty much what today's agenda is going to be. I'm going to try to fly through this PowerPoint and then slow down as we go through and talk about the demo here. I know that a lot of you are going to have questions as to whether or not this webinar is going to be recorded. We are planning on recording this webinar. So hopefully it'll be available within the next week or so, and we will be sending an email out to all of you. So real quick, I don't know if many of you know, but QuoteWerks is actually used by a quarter of all ConnectWise partners. We are the highest rated quoting solution on the ConnectWise marketplace and is used by over 70,000 users in 100 countries. And for that reason, QuoteWerks is the market-leading sales quoting and proposal solution. So let's talk about the different modules when it comes to QuoteWerks itself. So the core product is the corporate edition of QuoteWerks. That's what all of you have. That's what has the integration with ConnectWise, as well as all the other PSAs and our accounting integration. Now, if you purchase hardware or work with distributors, you're going to want to look at adding the real-time module if you don't already have it. The real-time module is going to allow you to get real-time price and availability from distribution. It handles procurement like online ordering, tracking your shipments, and getting serial numbers as well. And all of that is very easy to track in one location inside of QuoteWerks. It also includes the tax rate lookup service and FedEx and UPS quotes as well. And then because none of us like to maintain product databases, we have the product content subscription. If you do not have the product content subscription, it's the best $70 a year you can spend. Basically, that is our cloud database that includes all the parts from distribution that we work with. That includes all the utilized parts, as well as our part locator as well, which you'll see a little bit in the demo here why the part locator is important. Utilize does a really great job at providing a lot of the products that are offered through distribution. However, there's about 10% that slips through the cracks, whether that be they don't have the part numbers or it just isn't even in Utilize yet. For instance, Windows Server 2012, when it was first released, it took a year to get inside of Utilize. So I definitely recommend taking a look at the product content subscription. Not only is it going to make it so you don't have to maintain that product database, it's going to include spec sheets, optional items, and consumer pricing as well. And then lastly, we have the QuoteValet subscription, which is just a better way to distribute your quotes to your customers. So you know whenever they're looking at the quote, they can electronically sign and accept. It includes mobile, it includes web, includes shopping cart, all the integrations with your credit cards as well. So this is the full stack when it comes to QuoteWerks. Had a question that came in, how much is the real-time module? It's $199 one-time purchase, and it's based on reserve concurrency as well. So what does the ConnectWise integration do with QuoteWerks? Well, we're going to integrate with your contacts, obviously. We're going to integrate with attachments. So whenever we send an email through QuoteWerks, it's going to be there inside of ConnectWise because obviously you want it there. we're going to integrate with opportunities. We're going to be able to create new opportunities, link to existing opportunities, handle your current recurring revenue. When it comes to the products, obviously we're going to bring the products from ConnectWise into the Quote and QuoteWerks. We're also going to create new products in ConnectWise. And what's new is we actually handle groups and bundles. And what's great about that is that when we create that group or bundle on that opportunity, when we convert that opportunity to a project, the group is actually have the ability to go over as a phased job as well. So, and then we're also going to do service tickets, multiple tickets based on the products or the services that are on the Quote and QuoteWerks. Purchase orders, basically they're going to be one-off purchase orders inside of QuoteWerks. But when we place the order with distribution, we can then send that over to ConnectWise, which is great. And then also for about the 10% of you that are not using ConnectWise as your primary CRM, we do have the ability to use, say, Salesforce.com as your CRM. And then when the quote is won inside of QuoteWerks, we'll then win the opportunity inside of ConnectWise. So only the one ops go over there. That way you can handle all of your tickets and whatnot inside of ConnectWise where it belongs. As far as disties are concerned, we work with roughly about 20 different disties right now. We're always adding more distributors to our list. So if you don't see one on here currently that you work with, let us know. We don't charge the distie to add it. We don't charge you to add it. It's a win-win-win for everybody. It's just great for the community. As far as the distributor integration is concerned, basically we already talked about the product content description, which has the utilized database as well as the part locator. We're going to upsell with accessories, get real-time price and availability, consumer prices. Now this is huge because we're going to be able to get pricing from Amazon, CDW, Newegg, Provantage, and Staples. So if we're working with a a distie like say D&H, that's the only one that we work with, we may not have a lot of leverage because our volume isn't there, but it might be a little bit cheaper if we order from, say, Provantage, or we could use Provantage pricing to talk to our distie and say, hey, I'm getting this from Provantage, what can you do for me? Also, at the time of placing the online orders with distribution, we can go ahead and switch who we're purchasing from because a lot changes in the 2 weeks to 30 days that it takes to actually place that, to receive that order. We can also place electronic orders, like I said, and then track those orders as well. Then when it comes to Quote Valet, we're going to create interactive quotes, which you're going to see in the demo we're about to do. We're going to know when quotes are viewed by customers, which is huge because, if a customer hasn't viewed the quote since you sent them and it's been a week, we know to pick up the phone, give them a call, or maybe just stop by and say hi. Likewise, if they've seen the quote 5 times today, we want to give them a call as well. We're going to collect your credit card payments so you don't have to worry about faxing back and forth. We're going to handle the shopping cart functionality so you can have basically a portal for each customer, and they can reorder items from you as well. So you don't have to handle the very simple quotes, one-off quotes that you're not really going to make a whole lot of money off of. We've got Quote Valet Web, which I'll show off towards the end, which basically from the field on your phone, you can see exactly when customers are viewing quotes. As a sales manager, you can see how well your team is doing. And then also from a tablet, you can do quotes as well. And then we also handle the peer reviews and approvals as well. So basically, QuoteWerks has a ton of features, which we'll talk about. One of the things that we're going to touch on has to do with Haas quoting. And then we've got a couple of quick screenshots here, because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on purchasing in this webinar. But I will say that when we, I think it's 2 weeks from now, we are going to have a build release webinar, which we spend a lot of focus and time on the purchasing side. So you'll see a lot of this in that webinar. This is Quote Valet Web here. This is our status board, so you can actually see exactly, if you've got a big monitor in your sales area. For us, I think we've got like a 50-inch monitor or something like that. So we see exactly what's going on. We know when quotes are being viewed, when quotes are accepted, when they're paid, basically when our reps need to do something. And then we've got the shopping cart here. So basically, this is our workflow. With QuoteWerks, we're going to do more than just quoting, as you guys know. I will say, I'll show you a flow chart here in just a moment here, where, on our website, we do have blueprints that will basically walk you through some of the more basic or the questions that a lot of you guys are going to have. such as a workflow blueprint, how QuoteWerks is going to interact with ConnectWise. And basically, we're going to go through all of this today. But as you can see, we do have this on our website, on our blueprints section. So, and I'll come back to this later on here. So let's go ahead and actually use QuoteWerks with ConnectWise. As you can see, I've got QuoteWerks here running. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a very quick quote here for Hops R Us. It's very easy to search for contacts inside of ConnectWise. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it over for who we're shipping and billing to. And then let's go ahead and bring over a couple of bundles real quick. Like I said, I'm going through this very quickly here. We're going to spend more time on this a little bit later here. But this way you can see basically my workflow and what I do when I'm creating a quote. We want to do a pre-site survey. And then lastly, let's go ahead and have a bundle here to find out what their wireless needs are. And we'll go ahead and break this up. We're going to go ahead and insert a heading line here. And I've got an F2 lookup here for, let's see, I don't have one there, so we'll just create one here. And maybe we need to go ahead and get them some networking things, and then obviously we're going to want to do some managed services as well. So go ahead and bring those in. So we've got a couple of headings here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my products. And let's go ahead and bring in a managed service here from ConnectWise, as you can see. And as you can see, I can see the price history for every time I've ever quoted Hops R Us or any time as well. And we'll go ahead and add this under managed services. And then let's go ahead and bring in a, we'll go ahead and bring in a switch here. And what I've done is I've got a lookup here of my common items, which makes it just easier to find some things here. And I see a bunch of questions are coming in. After I create the quote here, I will answer some of the questions that have come in here. So let's go ahead and source it from Tech Data because they're just going to drop ship it, so that's fine. And we'll go ahead and see if what our pricing is from CDW, Newegg, so on and so forth. Looks like Prevantage is a little bit cheaper, but I know that this is going to help my my rating with Tech Data if I order from them. So we'll go ahead and bring that in under networking here. Obviously, we're going to want to bring in some accessories. So let's go ahead and bring this in. Now, just 1 second. And then, obviously, we're going to bring in our maintenance here. Now, something you'll notice that we have a target here next to Ingram Micro. Basically, this part is because we're bringing it in from our part locator. So that's just a good indicator. Basically, Ingram Micro's part number here was not located inside of Edelweiss. So we'll go ahead and bring this in under networking. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to group all of these together just by right-clicking and convert to group, because the customer doesn't need to know exactly what it all goes into the switch. They just need to know that they're getting a switch and that it's going to cost them $1,800 and that they're going to get maintenance. The other thing we can do, too, is we can go ahead and copy this. And I'm just selecting it, doing Control-C. And we'll go ahead and insert paste it. And what we can do is give them a monthly option. And we'll go ahead and convert this to recurring. Maybe jump that up a little bit here. And then we'll give them an actual option. I know I'm going through this kind of fast here, guys. Don't worry about it. And we'll make it optional. And one of them will be selected, and it's going to be switches. Okay. So now I've got, just to talk about it real quick here, I've got a services section with the services that I'm going to do. I'm going to do an on-site visit. I'm going to do a site survey. I'm going to go ahead and determine their wireless needs. We know that they're going to need a switch. We're going to go ahead and add in a wireless router afterwards. And we know that they need some managed services as well. So those will go over to the client as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And we're going to create a sales opportunity. Well, we're going to go ahead and create a linked document as well inside of ConnectWise. Basically what this is going to do is we can just click on a link inside of ConnectWise. It's going to open the quote up inside of QuoteWerks. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK here. So now we're going to create a brand new opportunity inside of ConnectWise here. If I wanted to, I could link to an existing one. And I'm going to go ahead and create the products inside of ConnectWise. Depending on your needs, you may only do that when the opportunity is won. All right, so at this point, we're all set, ready to go with ConnectWise. So let me go ahead and bring this guy over here. And here's the opportunity that we just created. I'll go ahead and click on that. And as you can see, inside of ConnectWise, we do have some bundles. And then we have our managed service as well. And if we go to the products, you can see it a little bit easier as well there. And as you can see, we are using 2014.2 as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break here and answer some of the questions that came in. Let's see, Liz has a question, what is the cost of QuoteValet? QuoteValet is $29 a user per month. It does go down with more users as well. Mark had a question about working with different disties and different countries. We work with a lot of different disties in a lot of different countries, so including USA, Canada, UK, Belgium, Germany. So if you don't see a distie that you're looking for there, definitely give us a call, send us an email. We can make something happen. We also integrate with disties in Australia as well. Mark had a question: is the heading actually different than a heading actually different than a comment line, and how? Well, basically, a heading line basically breaks up different sections, and a comment line would talk about that section or product. And you'll see that when we go a little bit deeper here. Jason had a question, if a quote is linked from ConnectWise to QuoteWerks, does that require a QuoteWerks license for each of our users? QuoteWerks is based on concurrent users. So if a user does click on that, open it up in QuoteWerks, it would use a license. But when we send this quote to a customer, it's actually going to go ahead and send a PDF file in the op as well. So you don't have to worry about it too much there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on here, and then we'll talk about some more of your questions here. Although Brian had a quick question, disties, yes, that does mean distributors. Thank you. Okay, so now we've got our quote inside of QuoteWerks. We've created an opportunity inside of ConnectWise. Let's go ahead and give this quote to our customer, basically deliver that quote. So what I'm going to do is select my layout that I'm going to use. QuoteWerks comes with a number of different layouts. You can do a proposal layout. You can do a quote layout. Basically, it's up to you as to how you want to present your quote to your customer. So let's go ahead and preview this document here. So here's a very basic-looking quote. You know, it does have pictures on there and our optional items and whatnot. And then with our managed services, then we can present that to the customer. Okay, that's one way to present it. The way that I like to present it, though, is using QuoteValet because it is going to be interactive for the customer. So we'll go ahead and upload this to QuoteValet. And you will need a subscription to utilize QuoteValet. So this is an example of what the quote could look like. I'm going to send the quote to the customer via email. Basically, it's just going to be a hyperlink where they could just click on the link. It's not going to have a PDF in the document itself. And then if I scroll down just a little bit here, you'll see that now we have our different options. Our switch, which is the buyout switch, or the monthly option. If we update that, you'll see that the amount then changes with the monthly amount here. So if we wanted to, what we could do now is go ahead and pretend that we sent the quote to the customer via email, and then they can sign and accept as well. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. And QuoteWerks has the ability to do a physical signature if you want. If you're going to have your customers basically sign and it's going to be on their workstation, you probably don't want to do this electronic signature format. But if you're on a tablet, this is perfect. It's a great way to get them to sign and accept. Okay. And we'll go ahead and click and accept. Basically, I'll get a notification from Quote Valet letting me know that they accepted. Customer could then pay now. I'll get notified that they actually viewed this pay now screen here. A good question came up. What gateway do we work with for payments? We actually work with over 80 different payment gateways. So for the most part, if you're working with an existing gateway, we'll integrate with them as well. Later on, I'll show you exactly how you can use them inside of QuoteWerks here. Okay. So now I'm going to go back over to QuoteWerks. Again, we're going to pretend that the customer did accept the quote here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up inside of QuoteWerks, letting me know that they selected a different option. We're going to remove the non-selected optional items. And we're going to go ahead and update the op inside of ConnectWise. At this point, if I wanted to, I could create some tickets inside of ConnectWise, either based on the products, the services. Each service, we can handle that. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and not create the ticket because I'm going to bill off of the opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. You'll notice that the status is 1 in QuoteWerks. Just give it just a moment here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up ConnectWise here. And we'll refresh the whole thing. And you'll notice the status is now 1 in QuoteWerks. If we scroll down just a little bit here, you'll notice that we now have our switch that is the monthly option. And this is going to be a Haas item, so I'm not sending over all the individual products. I'll purchase it in QuoteWerks, but I'm not going to send that over to ConnectWise. You'll see that over here. Okay, so at this point, we've won our opportunity inside of ConnectWise, so let's go ahead and take it to the next step. What we're going to do is we're going to actually convert this opportunity to a project. So we're going to go ahead and click on Convert, and I am inside of ConnectWise at this point. Select Project, click on Next. We're going to go ahead and create a new project here. Click on Next. And I'm not going to copy those documents over. And you'll notice over here we've got our different phases. Okay. So, and I'll show you how that happened when we go to our next step here. I mean, when we go through the actual setup options here. So we'll go ahead and set an end date. And so I selected my project. We'll go ahead and do Save. Now, if I go over to my work plan, you'll see that I have my on-site visit with my interview and my site diagrams and then my other stages as well. Okay? So this is how we take it all the way through to a project. Obviously, we could take it to a sales order or to the tickets as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to answer just a few more questions, and then we're going to talk about setting up the integration with ConnectWise. And that's going to be very important to make sure everything flows over correctly. Because basically the way that we designed the integration with ConnectWise is basically to streamline and automate the sales process. So you don't need to set up the mappings for the items each time you want to send them over to ConnectWise. We just set it up one time. All right, so let's go ahead and go to some more of your questions here. And some of these we're going to talk about a little bit later. Let's see. Melanie had a question. Can we not sync bundles over only the individual products that the bundle includes? Yes, Melanie. I will show you how to do that when we get to the setup option here in just a moment. Question from Michael. Do the products come into the ConnectWise opportunity after you've grouped them? They can either come in after or before, and we'll talk about that again. Chris had a question. Can bundles pull from ConnectWise product databases? Currently, we're not doing that, but I will definitely speak with development on that for you, Chris. Let's see. Michelle had a question. Do we accept ACH payments? We do not currently. I know it's something that's been on our roadmap for a little while, so it's probably pretty close to happening. Question from Kathleen. Do you need to have QuoteValet to utilize all of the ConnectWise features? No, you don't. Actually, all we did with QuoteValet was just accepting the quote and having the customer select different options. So everything we did with ConnectWise, you can do with just your corporate edition of QuoteWerks. Alvion had a question. Do you always need to hit update when a different item is selected? You do not need to. I just like doing that. If you accept the quote, it'll automatically select the different options for you. If you modify the QuoteValet layout, you can make it so it does it automatically as well. Again, some of these questions we're definitely going to talk about. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the setting up the integration first, and then we're going to go through a lot of these questions that you guys have here. So first things first, where do you go as a resource for learning how to set up the integration? One of the first places I recommend doing is going to our help file. It's right on our website, or from within QuoteWerks, you can go to help and find it there. But basically, we've got step-by-step instructions on how to set up the integration with ConnectWise. We used to have everything in a PDF file. We found that this format is a lot easier for you guys because now the help is more topic-based than it was before. Also, on our website, videos. We've got our integration setup video as well. And this has been updated for the current release of QuoteWerks as well. So definitely recommend watching that video so you can see how the setup works. Obviously, we are going to go through the setup here, but you know, it's good. It's going to be good reference material for you. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to set up your server URL. So basically, that's what you type into ConnectWise when you launch it. Your company ID and name, pretty straightforward. Now the next part is the integrator credentials. Basically, for QuoteWerks to integrate with ConnectWise, you have to create an integrator login for us. The setup video goes through that, and we also have a video just on the integrator as well. One of the things I recommend, though, is when you are creating that integrator login, give this integrator access to everything that all the APIs that ConnectWise has. And the reason I recommend that is because as we add more integration points with ConnectWise, which we constantly do, if we're not granted access to it, you're going to receive an error from ConnectWise when we try to integrate with that. Followed by your user credentials. Basically, this is going to be a one-time thing. So basically, if you wanted to do an override as an admin, you could do that. Each user is going to enter in their creds under Tools, My Preferences, however. So the first thing that I want to show you is the data link setup. QuoteWerks has the ability to pull in the tax rate from ConnectWise and bring that into QuoteWerks. So basically, you don't have to use our real-time tax rate lookup if your tax rate information is up to date inside of ConnectWise as it should be. So we can do that. So now let's talk about the actual setup here. So what I'm using right now is actually what will be build 5 of version 4.9. It's available right now in an interim, so if you see some things in here that you don't have in your build 4 of QuoteWerks, you can definitely send an email to support@QuoteWerks.com, and we can get you the latest interim, which has the latest bundle function as well. So for those of you that are not using ConnectWise as your primary CRM, meaning you're using Salesforce.com or Sugar or some other CRM package, you want to select integration mode of not primary CRM, but a majority of you guys are using it as a primary, so I'll go ahead and move on from here. The next setting here is for purchase orders. So if you do not have the purchasing module inside of ConnectWise, do not select ConnectWise because we're not going to be able to send it over, or if we do, it's going to go into a void. So if you're not using the purchasing module, you probably want to send it over to QuickBooks, which you can do, or none as well. So for purposes of our discussion today, I am going to use ConnectWise. Okay. The next tab here is Opportunities. So this is where we can set when we're winning the opportunity inside of ConnectWise, when we want to do it, when we convert it to an order, to an invoice, or never. The next setting here basically has to do with whether or not we're going to include the cost and the opportunity line items. For the most part, you guys are going to want to do that, but if you want to hide that from your users, you can do that as well. All the costs inside of QuoteWerks will be current. Now, this next checkbox here is probably one of the most important checkboxes right now. The integration with 2014.2. Actually, it started with 2013.4. Basically, ConnectWise is making changes, so we're making changes as well to integrate with them. They have actually updated their, made some changes based on feedback from you guys and feedback from us to basically bring that functionality back inside of ConnectWise. It's going to take probably the next release in order to get that spread out. But so what I'd recommend doing, if you are integrating QuoteWerks with ConnectWise 2014.2, make sure you uncheck the Enable Multiple Quotes per Opportunity. If you're an existing customer integrating and updating QuoteWerks, we're going to check it by default because that's the existing behavior. However, ConnectWise has made changes, and it will not work the way you want it to, so make sure you uncheck this checkbox. New users is going to be unchecked by default. All of these are pretty straightforward defaults here. One of the questions that came up was in the list here was my closed won status when going over to ConnectWise. I had it 1 in QuoteWerks. The reason I set it as 1 in QuoteWerks and not just the straight up 1 status inside of ConnectWise is because a lot of times the 1 statuses just get lost because at that point they're done. So I use a 1 in QuoteWerks to let my purchasing people know, hey, you need to go on to that next step. You need to go ahead and create the tickets or the sales order or the project. So that's a great way to make sure that those 1 opportunities don't get lost and you are billing those clients. Okay. Next, we're talking about forecast lines. Again, pretty straightforward stuff here. These next 2 checkboxes, though, are pretty important. The first one is defaulting whether or not we're going to create the individual products inside of the ConnectWise opportunity. If you're doing a lot of products and you're selling a lot of items from distributors, you probably don't want us to do this until we're winning the opportunity inside of ConnectWise. And the reason behind that is because you're going to be quoting lots of items, but you probably don't want those items to be created inside of ConnectWise unless you're actually selling them. And this last checkbox here will make sure that that happens. And I'll show you in the next step here what that actually does. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this checkbox here. So that way I'm only sending over items that I'm actually selling to the customer. Inside of QuoteWerks, everything is based on the item type and how we're going to send that over to ConnectWise. So on the left-hand side here, I've got my QuoteWerks item types. and I'm going to map them to a forecast type inside of ConnectWise. Now, the majority of the time, your QuoteWerks item types, if they're going over to ConnectWise, we're probably going to send them over as a product, because as ConnectWise has evolved, most things go over as products. Even services are going to go over as products with a service class. Your agreements are probably going to go over as a product with an agreement class as well. So for the most part, unless you want them to just have a forecast line, you're going to go ahead and send them over as a product. Now, for any of those item types that I didn't have mapped, they're going to default to this product, the forecast type of product. Okay. On the shipping tab, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, if you want us to include the shipping from QuoteWerks into ConnectWise, we can either do it as an other forecast, or we can actually select an existing product inside of ConnectWise as well. And if we need be, we can create it as well. Okay, so that's the basics there on the opportunity side. Where the fun begins, though, is when we start talking about products. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and see if you guys have any questions here, and then we'll go ahead and talk about that. Let's see. Mario had a question. He saw that we had the integration with QuickBooks and Peachtree. Wanted to know if we had the integration with Sage 100, formerly known as Mass 90. QuoteWerks itself does not have that integration, but we do have a third party that has written that integration. All right. See, a couple of questions that came up about the multiple quotes per opportunity checkbox right here. So again, right now, ConnectWise has made changes, so we've had to make changes as well. So my recommendation for right now is to uncheck that checkbox. Right now we left it there for legacy users because we do have customers that are on-prem that are on like 2013.2, for instance. So this is not the changes that ConnectWise made in 2014.2 will not affect them. And I do want to say too, QuoteWerks is using all public APIs. I just want to make sure that we dispel any rumors here. And we're not writing directly to the database. We are using all public APIs, and that's why they've added that functionality back for us that will be available shortly. But we are going to need to make some slight changes on our side as well for you guys. So I recommend right now to uncheck the checkbox. So this is unchecked to enable multiple quotes per opportunity. All right. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and move over to products now. So products here is we're going to be talking about when we're creating new products and also linking to existing products inside of inside of ConnectWise. And the key is going to be we need to have some field inside of QuoteWerks to map to the ConnectWise product ID. By default, it is going to be the manufacturer part number, but you can make it be whatever you want. If you want to have very generic products inside of ConnectWise, you could have the QuoteWerks item type go over to the ConnectWise product ID, so you're not going to be creating a bunch of products. We also have the ability to generate part numbers on the fly as well. And we've got some videos that show you how to do that in more detail. We can talk about that later as well if you're interested. Then we talk about the different product types, categories, product classes, and whatnot. Now, what's important here is all of these are going to be if we're creating new items inside of ConnectWise. If the item already exists inside of ConnectWise, we're going to use the features that are inside of ConnectWise already. So when we're mapping to the different product types, if XYZ product already exists in ConnectWise as, say, a product, it's not going to go over as a service, even though we may already have it mapped. Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. And then it's the same is going to be true if we haven't mapped any of those categories, any of those item types. This is what our default is going to be. Categories and subcategories, again, very similar. And then the product classes. Product classes are very important when integrating with ConnectWise. We're going to be able to map the different item types in QuoteWerks to the product class. So services, make sure your services are going over as a service product class. Likewise, your managed services probably want to go over as agreements as well. By default, my items are going to be non-inventory, however. Our work roles, our unit of measures, make sure you map those. And then serialized, which is something new that we added in the latest release here, where basically we have the ability to send over items as being serialized when integrating with ConnectWise. The next tab here is bundles. This is where we handle exactly how we're going to be sending over bundles from QuoteWerks or groups in QuoteWerks to ConnectWise. And we have the ability to send it over as a ConnectWise bundle, which you've already seen, as just the header-only line with no products, or the individual products with no bundle header. These two options have been in QuoteWerks for a long time. The ConnectWise bundle is new functionality. Okay, so if you do not want the bundle to go over to ConnectWise as a bundle, you just want the individual items for billing purposes, for instance, you would just select the individual products. For me, though, I am going to be sending it over as a bundle. Now, the next section here, with group bundles being recurring, now these would be the Haas items inside of QuoteWerks. We'd want to send over probably the bundle header only with no products instead of the ConnectWise bundle. And the reason behind that is because they can really mess up your billing if we're going to be sending the products over to ConnectWise, because ConnectWise doesn't really have a way to handle those Haas items very well. So when we're integrating with ConnectWise, let me make sure I do something here real quick. When we're integrating with ConnectWise here, anytime our product ID, in this case it's going to be my manufacturer part number, is left blank, it's going to default to one of these two options here. If you are switching back and forth between the bundle header and the Connect bundle option, you're going to need to change the bundle product ID for that default, because once that definition is created inside of ConnectWise, we're not going to be able to change that. Okay. And then we've got our item type defaults, and then we've got our is project phase. And this is what was happening when we were converting that opportunity to a project to handle that phase. And you'll notice that in the QuoteWerks item type is project phase, it's going to go over to ConnectWise as a project phase. Otherwise, it's not going to go over that way. Okay. Then the last tab in the setup, and then I'm going to get to all of your questions because I see them mounting up here, has to do with when we're pulling in products from ConnectWise into QuoteWerks, how we're going to set those mappings to the QuoteWerks item type. So basically, we can either do it based on the product types or the categories and subcategories that you've already mapped, and that's going to then do a reverse mapping to the QuoteWerks item type. And then if any of those are not mapped, then we're going to use the default here of product. Okay, so I know we just went over a lot of stuff that has to do with more of the admin phase, but I know a lot of you have questions on setting up the integration with ConnectWise, so I wanted to make sure that we covered that in this webinar here. Like I said, we do have it a lot of the documentation in the help file as well as the video as well that goes through all of that. So let's go ahead and answer your questions. I know you've got a ton, so let's go ahead and do that. Matt had a question. Is there a tutorial on how to add the signature fields to the Quote Valet template? Yes, we do have a video on how to do that, Matt. If you go to our videos page, just do a search for Quote Valet. You'll see them all right there. See, Ron had a question. How long did it take to set up QuoteWerks with ConnectWise, like you just saw there? Really, it doesn't take that long as you know ConnectWise and you know your products. So it could take anywhere between 10 minutes and probably an hour, just doing some trial and error testing just to make sure everything is going to go over correctly for you. See, David had a question. Is there a way to push products to service tickets but only bill off of the sales order? You can definitely do that. If QuoteWerks is creating the tickets for you, what you can do then is then bill the sales order when you convert the opportunity to that sales order. If that makes sense. John had a question. He's going to be upgrading to ConnectWise 2014.2 shortly. Is there anything specific that he should know? The big one is basically if when you do the upgrade, if you had multiple quotes per op, you may run into some duplicate forecast lines. So basically, after you do the migration, make sure you uncheck this checkbox here to enable multiple quotes per opportunity, and you should be good to go. I will say the integration is ConnectWise 2014.2 is smoking fast. I understand why they call it Cheetah, so definitely it's going to be a good upgrade for you here. Let's see, question from Mandy. How do you correct the cost of a bundle if when pushed through ConnectWise and over to QuickBooks, it duplicates the cost? I'm not sure, Mandy, because I think that might be more of a ConnectWise question. And the reason I say that is because when we go over to the opportunity here, we are using the straight-up ConnectWise functionality here when it comes to adding the bundle items. It's all through their public API. So if you have questions on that, you can definitely contact us, and we can get you in touch with an appropriate contact over at ConnectWise. Mike had a question. What is the latest version of QuoteWerks? Currently, we are on QuoteWerks version 4.9 build 4. If you within QuoteWerks itself, if you go to our download area, you can always see the latest release right here, and then we've got all the updates as well. See, Reg has a question. When products are pulled from distributors via Utilize for a quote and synced to products of ConnectWise, is it possible to match the ConnectWise category subcategory so that the product item does not create an uncategorized product ID? Yes, and that's definitely a different area of the setup, but it makes a lot of sense to cover that with you guys. And if we go to Tools, Options within QuoteWerks here, we're going to go over to the real-time tab and go to our content subscription. And then we've got the map to QuoteWerks item type. So what I'm doing is I'm retrieving all the categories from Utilize here. If you can map the Utilize category to a QuoteWerks item type, and then you'd map the QuoteWerks item type to the specific category and subcategory. So that's basically how you would do that. So it's going to go ahead and click on OK here and close out. So now what I'm going to do, I know you've got some more questions here, but I want to make sure that we move on and we touch everything that we were talking about before. So I'm going to talk about how I created that initial quote earlier with the services, the networking, and the managed services. Okay. So I'm going to create a brand new quote. Go to my Sold To, Ship To tab. Click on Search. Actually, before I do that, I wanted to show you one new feature that we've got coming up. You'll notice that we now have the ability to create a new company in ConnectWise as well. So if it's not a linked contact inside of ConnectWise, we can create a brand new one. Just want to let you know that is on the horizon. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in HopsRS. And I don't have any active quotes for that contact because I won that quote earlier. So now let's go ahead and talk about the heading lines a little bit. Heading lines in QuoteWerks are a great way to separate the quote out into different sections. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a heading. And I'm going to hit F2. I always recommend having a pick list of items. And if you hit F2, you'll, in a majority of the fields in QuoteWerks, you'll have a pick list. So let's go ahead and add services. And you can control what users have the ability to create and edit and delete the different F2 lookups as well. So we're going to have a services section. Let's go ahead and add that networking section. And then we'll go ahead and add in one more heading here for our managed services. Okay. Pretty straightforward, but what it does is it makes it very easy to add items to our quote. Next, let's go ahead and add our bundles inside of QuoteWerks to our opportunity here. Our quote here. So what I'm going to do is just click on bundles, and let's take a look at a couple of the bundles that I've created here. So I'm going to go ahead and edit our first on-site visit. And what I have here is a group bundle inside of QuoteWerks with an item type of project phase, because I want it to eventually become a phase in our project here. And then I've got a part number of project. And then from our products database, I have two items here, the interview with the CEO and CIO, and then the site diagrams. So that's how that one item is, that one bundle is being created here. So let's go ahead and add that under services. And then let's talk about the next one, where I did my pre-site survey. If I edit this guy, and inside of ConnectWise, I actually have two of the exact same part number. That's why it was coming up like that. You'll notice that I have my description, my item type of project phase, and then I've got my part number. Now what you'll notice, though, is I'm actually pulling these items from ConnectWise. So anytime I make any changes to a description or a price, it's automatically going to flow down into QuoteWerks. Okay? And a couple of things here. As far as the attributes, depending on what you want to show to the customer, you may want to hide like the quantity of the that you've got here. So especially when it's going to be about services, basically you're going to say, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. They don't need to know how many hours it's going to take to do each phase. So we'll go ahead and add that under services. And then lastly, our wireless needs, which are basically set up the exact same way. So now I've got my services on my quote here. Okay, so again, all of these costs and prices, they're pulling from ConnectWise, except for these first two. They're in a native product database. Okay. Now let's go ahead and bring in our switch here. So to do that, I'm just going to click on Products. And in Utilize here, we've got our search for. And if I hit F2, again, a pick list of my common items that I order. I've got my switch here. And this is my part number here, which ends in the -NA. And then my //switch is basically just letting me know it's a switch. Select that, click on Find, and it goes out to Utilize, finding that. Obviously, I could type in like Cisco switch 28 ports and limit that to my distributors, and it would help narrow that down. Now we're getting real-time price and availability. That worked just a minute ago. So apparently I'm having some problems with my tech data, so let's go ahead and switch it to D&H here. Actually, we'll do Ingram Micro because they have the lowest cost. So I'm just going to double-click on it. Go ahead and select Networking here. Click on Add. We've got our spec information over here. We go over to Accessories. Utilize will categorize these for me here. So let's go ahead and go to our modules. And we'll go ahead and select Ingram this time. And we'll double click. We'll select our quantity, select the section. If I didn't select the section, it would just add it or insert it depending on where my cursor is right now. Go ahead and add that. Go over to our services here. As you can see, it found our Ingram. All right, and then lastly, we're going to bring in our managed service here. And that's a real-time pull from ConnectWise. Okay, so I'm sure there are a ton of questions here. Okay, Brian had a quick question here. He asked, what did the red target icon mean next to the distributor? Basically, that meant that that part number was not found via Utilize. It was actually found via our part locator service. So if you're using just straight up Utilize, you would have not found that part number. Question from Troy. Do you build the pick list, or is that populated automatically as items are quoted? You would be the one that builds that, because basically that list, if you do a lot of quotes, would become almost unmanageable, because you know, if we did it just on the items that you quoted, you probably want to have a lot more control over just that. Brian had a question. Are pick lists shared amongst QuoteWerks users? Yes, they are. So you'll want to be careful with that, and you'll want to make sure that you do control you know, which users have the ability to create them and modify them. Lee had a question from when we were doing the setup. He didn't have all the options that I had when setting up the bundles inside of QuoteWerks when going over to ConnectWise. That is something that we did change in Build 5. I wanted to show this off just so that when you guys did upgrade to Build 5, you'd see those options. So if you're interested in getting that latest release, you can get that from support@quoteworks.com. Gerard had a question about the forecast grouping inside of ConnectWise. If I go back over. Basically, as far as I know, the forecasts they're going to stay the way that they are. Basically, you either have products or you have estimate lines. So it's definitely a ConnectWise question, but basically what I was inferring was that they're adding the functionality that QuoteWerks uses via the public API to link multiple quotes the same up. See, Rob had a question. Is there a diagram or blueprint with an overview of the two data models, QuoteWerks and ConnectWise, and the various relationships, such as the categories, product types, classes, and the implications for opportunities, converted tickets, sales orders, and projects? Right now we do not, but I will say that we will probably add that soon. We are in the process of creating a lot more workflow and blueprints. And just so you guys know where that is, if you go under Downloads and Download area, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the QuoteWerks Blueprints here. When we do have it, it will be listed right here under ConnectWise users here. Question from Robert here. When you convert a quote to an order, where does it go in ConnectWise? Well, basically, it's going to stay an opportunity inside of ConnectWise, but it's going to be one inside of ConnectWise. And then you can do what ConnectWise does best and bring it on to that next stage, whether that be the sales order, the ticket, or to the project. Beth had a quick question here about, actually a question about the tax rates pulling from ConnectWise. I'll show that a little bit later, Beth. Lisa had a question where if we're going to be recording this webinar. Yes, we are recording the webinar. It should be up within the next week or so. All right, so let's go ahead and move on just a little bit more. So now at this point, I've got my services, I've got my managed services, and I've got my networking section here. But basically, I want to recreate what I had before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these three items here. I'm going to right-click and convert to group. And this is going to be our switch. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to highlight these three lines, Control-C, and then I'm going to go to Insert Paste. And now I've got two of those exact same switches. Okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to convert this last switch here into a Haas item, or one that we're going to be billing the client monthly for. To do that, I'm going to click on the P with it highlighted, convert that to recurring, set my APR, which can be defaulted, so maybe up it to 21% here, over 36 months. Click on OK, and you'll notice that this now changes color to a dark orange. And I always like to, in the header here, let the customer know exactly what they're doing here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make it so the customer can select either switch A or switch B, meaning are we going to do the buyout or we're going to do the monthly option. And to do that, you just select the heading lines, click on the attribute here, is optional. We're going to say yes. We're going to make the first one selected and add it to a group. And there we go. Question that just came up from Charles, does this end at 2 p.m. Central Time? We will be ending probably in about 5 to 10 minutes of the main part here, showing the whole workflow. But I will stay as long as you guys have questions. All right. So at this point, the last thing I want to do is go ahead and make this monitoring here recurring. When we pull items from ConnectWise, there's not a way for us to know if the item is recurring or not because they don't have a flag for that yet. We have heard some rumors, so hopefully they'll have that soon. So now I'm just going to go ahead and set this as recurring. And we'll go ahead and set some contract start and end dates. We'll do T for today, and then T plus Y for today plus a year. And if you use ConnectWise, if you use QuickBooks, those shortcuts will be very similar. All right, so at this point, we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Save. I'm going to give this a name. At this point, if I wanted to, I could create some one-off activities, some tickets, and move on. So we'll click on OK. If I wanted to, I could link to an existing opportunity. I'm not going to do that, but we are going to create our new one here. And then all right. And then you'll notice that the checkbox is unchecked to create or update individual products. I'm going to go ahead and save that so you can see what happens when we send that over. So now, at this point, all we have are, one, a product's estimate, and then a recurring estimate as well because of our deal here at the bottom. Okay? Now, if I were to resave this, actually, let me go back. Go over to products. There aren't going to be any products right now because I didn't send products over. The opportunity is going to be correct, but we are not going to have the individual products because we may never sell this switch ever again. So that's why you probably don't want to send them over until you actually win the op. However, for a lot of my examples, I do like to send those over. So now if we go back over to ConnectWise here, you'll notice that now we have our products. Okay. Todd had a question. Where can we see reporting on quote pipeline, i.e. stage, probability, etc.? Right now, all of that is going to be handled inside of ConnectWise because we set all of that on that opportunity. That being said, in the near future, you'll be able to see a lot of that on your dashboard inside of ConnectWise. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead now and actually send this quote to the customer. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and send that standard quote over. And we can view what that PDF is going to look like. Assuming everything looks good, what we can do is then upload that to ConnectWise, to QuoteValley. And I'm going to use the standard customer-facing one, not with the digital signature capture. And there we go. So from here, what I would do is I would just click on Send Email, go ahead and send it to the customer. If I had a template, I could definitely select the template. But basically, you'll see that there is no attachment. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close the email here. Close this, and let's pretend that we sent the email to the customer. Customer goes into QuoteWerks here. They click on their email. They see this document. If they want, they can click on the PDF. So they can see what that PDF looked like if you gave them the PDF option. I got notified that they looked at that PDF. They can then take a look to see the different sections. You see our services section here. You'll see that we've got our different services that we're going to be performing with the customer. Then they can select the different options, whether it's going to be the switch or the monthly option. We'll go ahead and have them select the monthly option here. Click on Update. And now you'll notice that our monthly, it's going to be a one-time purchase of $25.25 with a monthly of $273.75, which is basically the monthly option here plus the $199. If the customer had questions, they could ask questions if they wanted to, or they can accept right away. The IP address would be your IP address or the customer's IP address, I should say. So we'll go ahead and have Joe sign it. And I just got notified via email that the customer had accepted. Had that quote been over $10,000 that they accepted, I would have gotten a text message as well using QuoteValley. Now, if you aren't using QuoteValley with QuoteWerks, you would just deliver the quote via email with that PDF attachment. The downside being is, you won't know every time the customer views the quote. So now I could either click on a link in that email, open the quote in QuoteWerks, or what I'll do is I'll start from ConnectWise, open the quote, it's letting me know the customer selected different options. I'm going to remove the non-selected options from the quote, or the order, I should say. And now we're going to win the opportunity inside of ConnectWise. And you'll notice I don't have an option. It's going to force create of those individual products. So I recommend setting that option. All right, so it's that easy. So now we go back over to ConnectWise here. We can go to our forecast. Actually, let's refresh that. You'll notice the status is 1 in QuoteWerks, and we are good to go. So from here, we have the ability to convert to either the sales order, the service ticket, or the project. There we go. I will say the quote button here, we are able to actually utilize that inside of QuoteWerks now. We're very close to releasing a new update to handle the new changes in 2014.2 as well with that. Lastly, I wanted to show you one other thing, and then I'm going to answer all of the questions that you have here. One of the cool things that we added with the dashboard in version 4.9 is the ability to have different notifications here. So basically, all of these are existing opportunities inside of ConnectWise that have a status of letting us know that we need it to create a quote. So basically, what we can do here is click on Create Quote for ConnectWise Opportunity. And what that's done is it's actually brought in the contact information, and it's actually linked it to that opportunity behind the scenes. So basically, from here, we could then go ahead and create the actually, let's bring in our Platinum services here. Save it. It's got the name of the opportunity from ConnectWise. Instead of the status of Create Quote, we'll go ahead and set it to Open. Click on Save. It's going to update that opportunity that was already inside of ConnectWise. And then you'll notice it's no longer in our notifications here. So it's a great way. So if you're on like your iPhone or other mobile device when inside of ConnectWise and basically creating your ops, you can then set it to basically tell us that we need to create a quote for it later on. Okay, so I know we covered a lot of material here. You know, I tried to cover as much as I could in that hour and 15 minutes. So we are recording this webinar, so I understand if you do need to go, you will have the ability to watch it later. Otherwise, what I'm going to do now is basically open the floor up to all questions. I have a feeling we'll be here for a while. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start from the very top of the list. There were some questions that I did ignore up until this point. But I do want to thank you for sitting in on this webinar. We will have some more focused webinars in the future. What we wanted to do with this webinar was make sure that everybody had a chance to see the overview of the integration with ConnectWise, have a chance to ask questions, so you know what we can do with ConnectWise. The integration is constantly changing. All right, so like I said, we're going to start from the top here. Love's had a question from much earlier regarding the real-time module that I talked about very early on. It is a $199 one-time purchase per concurrent user. It does go down based on volume as well. There is nothing after the first year except for maintenance, which is just at 20%. Let's see. Question from Brent. Where are you setting the quote number? Well, basically, what I'm doing when if I was to click on New here, try that one more time here. and I was to just save the document, you'll see that I'm using the next document available. Okay. See, Kay had a question. How can we save a quote without letting it flow through ConnectWise as an opportunity? We just want to save it in QuoteWerks as a quote. Well, basically, right here on this screen, I would just uncheck everything, and it wouldn't send anything over to ConnectWise. The other thing you could do, too, is select offline, and it won't send anything over to ConnectWise either. See, Todd had a question. Can you please go over adding pics of products to a quote? Yeah, so when it comes to, we'll start with Edelweiss products first. Products coming from Edelweiss actually happen automatically. And what it's going to do is it's going to use this picture right here. So when I add this item to my quote, if I was to select the item and click on the picture button right here, you'll see that the picture is right here. If I wanted to, I could remove the picture or select a different picture as well. So if I wanted to, we could then change it to that picture. But basically, it would only use it for that one-time purchase, this one-time purpose. So it would just be for this one quote. The other thing you can do, too, if you're using like a native product database, you can edit like our products here, go to Picture, and from here, you could then set it so anytime in the future that you quote this item, we would select it. And we do have some videos on the website as well that talk about that. If you have questions, Todd, on pictures and QuoteWerks, you can definitely give us a call. But basically, on the layouts, control whether or not you're going to show the picture or not, as well as on Quote Ballet, by default, you'd show the picture as well. The question from Jessica. Since our recent upgrade in ConnectWise, once we convert the op to a project or sales order, the forecasts are being duplicated in the op. Is there a fix for this? Unfortunately, Jessica, when ConnectWise did their upgrade from 2013.4 to 2014.2, they made a change that did not go with the trying to think of the right way to say this. Basically, they weren't adhering to behaviors prior to 2013.4 when it had to do with a quote number associated with a product inside of ConnectWise. That is the functionality that they are fixing, and we have been working with them on that fix. But unfortunately, those existing ones have been duplicated. You can definitely contact ConnectWise to see if there's anything that they can do to fix it. It's on the ConnectWise side when it comes to those duplicate forecasts. Sama has a question. Is there a way to link customer PO from QuoteWerks to ConnectWise Opportunities? Currently there is not, but I can definitely see where you would like to do that. I will talk to development about that for you. You can also send an email to development@quoteworks.com whenever you have product suggestions. Jessica had a question. If you uncheck the multiple quotes per opportunity, can you still attach multiple quotes to one op? Unfortunately not. That is something that we prided ourselves on, but right now we do not have that functionality inside of ConnectWise. Otherwise, you will have the problem with duplicate forecasts. So, like I said, that is what we're working with ConnectWise on. See, Robert had a question. With shipping, we add individual shipping for different items. Can we choose this in some way? For that one, Robert, give technical support a call, 407-248-1481. They can definitely talk to that a little bit in more detail than I would on this webinar. Going through the questions here, there are some people that have already left, so I'm not going to answer their questions here. Dave had a question with regards to serialized products with QuoteWerks and ConnectWise. Does that get actual serial number from purchase info disti? Currently, we do not send that over to ConnectWise. That is something that we are talking about doing. Right now, when we send over a purchase order to ConnectWise, it's similar to us doing a manual PO inside of ConnectWise. It is not a linked product, so we are going to be adding that functionality in the near future, however. Let's see. And it looks like a lot of you guys had questions regarding our ConnectWise setup here when it came to those bundles. Again, this changed a little bit in Build 5, mostly so we could handle the recurring versus non-recurring bundles, and also adding back the ability to send over just the individual products with no bundle header. And again, you can get this release right now from us. It is not a public release, but you can contact support at QuoteWerks.com, and I can send you a link to it. Lots of questions here, guys. The question from Todd: if contact is created in QuoteWerks, is there a way to transfer that back to ConnectWise? Yes. So basically, if I was to create a brand new quote here, we can type in new CW contact, say webinar contact. I'm not going to fill it all out. What I can do now is click on this button right here, and this is a Build 5 feature, just to let you guys know. You'll notice that right down here, it's letting me know that the contact is linked. So if I go over to ConnectWise now, go to Company, and we have our contact that we just created. Okay, so you'll notice, though, since it is linked, we don't have the ability to create a new contact. Hope that answers your question, Todd. See, Joey had a question. For products in ConnectWise, when we choose the product in QuoteWerks, the cost QuoteWerks shows is the unit price, not the unit cost. That probably has to do something with your mappings. So if we go to products and set up product sources, edit our ConnectWise link here, make sure that cost goes to cost, okay? And then we have price going to price. And that should fix your problem, Joey. If that doesn't, give support a call. That's what they're there for, 407-248-1481. Beth had a question about the tax rate setup that I had done. You mentioned being able to pull tax rate from ConnectWise. How does that work? Okay. So basically, if you have the tax rate already set up for a contact inside of ConnectWise, we have the ability to pull that in through our data link, and we'll do it based on the location that you select. However, if that location doesn't have a tax rate, we'll default it to the main company. Okay, and the way that we're doing that is basically pulling the contact manager field of company tax rate to the QuoteWerks local tax rate field. All right. So if I go over to my tax rate right now, it's 8%. I think I have my main Aspire account set up. you'll notice that now my tax rate is 6.5%. Denise had a question. Is there a way to show the quantity of the items within a bundle when you print a quote? You can definitely do that. That's all going to be handled by the print layout itself. You can definitely give support a call and they can assist you with that. But that is all controlled by the layout or whether or not you've selected the option here to hide the quantity. See, John had a question. When pulling items from Eatalize, what selling price comes up? We normally sell at something different than list price, but not at straight percentage for every item. Our markup percentage varies by item category. Is there a way to accomplish that with Eatalize? Yes. So let's do this. Let's go to one of our new items here, our new quotes, I should say. And let's go to Tools. Let's go to Options. Real-time setup, and you'll notice that we have map to price modifier. Okay, so on the left-hand side we have all the Eatalize categories. There's a ton of them. So let's do this. If we go up to Services, maybe Services, we'll go ahead and set it at straight list. I don't have a. It's going to pull from your price modifier drop-down. I don't have one there, so we'll mark it up to P50. We'll do this one to P50 as well. And a question that comes up is, how do you know what the Eatalize category is for an item? And I'll show you that in just a moment. If you don't have an item that is mapped, what we're going to do is we're going to default to the price modifier that you have here. In this case, I've got D5, which is a discount of 5%. So let's go ahead and do a search in Eatalize for a Cisco SmartNet. All right, tech data is working again, which is awesome. Now, if I highlight over my manufacturer inside of Cisco, for the item here, you'll notice that the mouse over here, or the tooltip, says Services. Basically, I've just mapped Services to be marked up 50 points. Also, if you go to the Spec Sheet tab, you'll see where the product type is of Services. So that's how you can tell. So I'll go ahead and add this item to my quote. And you'll notice that my price modifier is P50. It's a great markup. Otherwise, you know, if we go back over to that switch that we were working with earlier, highlight over it, it's switches and bridges. And you'll notice that the price modifier is D5. So that's how you can control that. If you have more questions on that, John, definitely give support a call. But that's a really good question that everybody here that works with distributors would be able to use. I'm going to try to get to some of the newer questions here, and then we'll jump back here. I just want to make sure that everybody gets all the questions that they need here. Let's see. I'm glad that helped, Joey. Good. Let's see. As far as the tax question, I'll show that off one more time. It's under Contacts, Set up Contact Manager, and Data Link Setup. So if this is not working for you, if you already have this set up, make sure you're on Build 4 or higher, QuoteWerks version 4.9. ConnectWise, we made some changes as to how we integrate with ConnectWise based on feedback from the community here. People were asking us to be able to do it based on the company. People were asking us to do it based on the location. And then when we flopped them, they wanted it the other way around. So what we did was that great override. So if the location is blank, then we'll use the main the main company. I know this is a lot of information, guys. I'm trying to do my best to break it up and make sure that we're respecting your time as well. Yeah, Liz, definitely give us a call. That's what support is there for. Michael had a question. Does QuoteWerks have a roadmap of generating sales orders from OneQuotes? Michael, that's a really good question, and I think a better question would be, why would you want QuoteWerks to do it when it's core functionality within ConnectWise? And that's kind of the direction that we're going. ConnectWise did just add the API to be able to do that within, I think, in one of the latest updates from ConnectWise. So regardless if we were to do it or not, we'd want the dust settled on that API before we touch it. But I think a good question for you to ask yourself, and you can definitely send us an email at support@quoteworks.com with why you want QuoteWerks to generate that sales order from ConnectWise, because I think it really makes more sense for ConnectWise to create that sales order once we create that one opportunity. See, Alvion had a question about QuoteValet tutorials. We do have a number of tutorials on the website with QuoteValet. If there's something that you're looking for, definitely give us a call. We can work on getting some for you. I'll let you know I'm going to be at an ASCII event in Austin this week, and I will have downtime on Friday. So we will be creating some tutorial videos for you guys. So if you have suggestions on that, you can always send it to, for anybody that's on a webinar, you can send it to qwsales@quoteworks.com with suggestions on tutorial videos. Otherwise, just send it to support@quoteworks.com. Another question, the questions and comments made on QuoteValet by customers, does that get sent over to ConnectWise? Currently, it does not, only because it could really flood the ConnectWise tab. I can tell you that I've seen some very long threads happen on our side, even just dealing with questions about QuoteWerks, which our quotes have a maximum typically of like 15 line items, not like the 100 to 200 items that I typically see with ConnectWise users. So I could only imagine what that thread would be like. Angela had a question. How do you set up text notifications, like I had mentioned, when a quote is accepted over $10,000? Actually, it's really simple. It's a free service that we offer you guys. Technically, it's in a beta mode, and we do reserve the right to change it. But if you go to Tools, My Preferences, and under your mobile phone number, if you put your mobile phone number in there, you will receive a text. It's pretty awesome. Bill had a question. Does QuoteWerks integrate with both the on-premise and cloud versions of ConnectWise? If so, any obvious advantages, disadvantages to either version? I'm not going to go into too much on this, Bill, but yeah, I mean, our integration with ConnectWise is exactly the same whether you're hosted or not. So, obvious advantages. If you're ConnectWise hosted, basically you don't have to manage it, which is great. However, you're at their whim when they decide to update or upgrade ConnectWise. So just some things to keep in mind there. And then as far as speed is concerned, it's probably not as much of a concern as it once was. Now it's 2014.2. Like I said, speed is pretty fast. I've been very pleased with that. You guys are still asking questions. Wow. Okay. see, Steve had a question. Does the mobile text work outside of the U.S., specifically in the U.K.? I believe, Steve, we are limited to North America. I could be wrong. Definitely shoot me a quick email, Steve. You've got my email address. Bill, I'm glad you checked with us, but like I said, everything is great when it comes to integration with the cloud hosted of ConnectWise. Yeah, I mean, definitely take a look at it. I mean, it's as far as the QuoteWerks side, it's going to be exactly the same. All right, so I'm just taking a quick look at the time here. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a few more moments here. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we can all move on with our day here. The question from Ann: does the QuoteWerks down payment become a down payment invoice in ConnectWise? Is best practice to invoice products to have all invoicing done through QuoteWerks or ConnectWise, or go from QuoteWerks to QuickBooks? Very good question, Ann, and I'm going to say yes. What I mean by that is if I go back to our blueprints, this is one of our blueprint options, basically meaning going from QuoteWerks to ConnectWise, basically as the CRM to QuickBooks. It's one way to go. One of the nice things about going this way is that when the customer accepts in QuoteWerks, we'll collect the payment and send that as a payment receipt inside of QuickBooks for you. Now, one of the things that's nice is that when everything gets synced back up, as you can see right here, the payment receipt gets synced up to ConnectWise automatically for you if everything is set up correctly. Okay. But definitely take a look at our flowcharts. I think this should make a lot of sense for you when it comes to how things should be done. There's definitely different options on that as well. Zach, your question was the projects. I think we could take that one offline just for right now. Okay, Ian had a question. In the quote layout, is there a way to have some white space between each line item? This needs to be the same amount of gap between line items, never mind how many lines there are in the product description. To date, I have been doing this by adding an extra return at the end of the description, but that's a kludgy workaround. I agree, Ian, that is a kludgy workaround. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. So number one, you can do it by, if you wanted to, you could insert a comment line. But again, that's kind of kludgy. The other thing you can do, too, if we were to let's go ahead and clone. Is what you can do is, in your detail section with your products, just go ahead and add some spacing at the top. It's typically where I recommend doing it. And when you double-click on it, just make sure you're not compressing the space before, compressing the space before the first item. And after you do that, you should be good to go with the spacing. Otherwise, go ahead and give support a call. They'll be able to help you out with that. Kay, your question about duplicating the opportunity in ConnectWise, go ahead and give support a call. I'm not sure how that would happen. So if you haven't already talked to QuoteWerks Technical Support, do so. Just give us a call, 407-248-1481. Denise had a question. Is there a way to pull a vendor SKU from a bundled product in ConnectWise? Currently, we do not pull bundles from ConnectWise. It is definitely something that somebody asked earlier, and I know other people have asked for it before as well. You can definitely send a suggestion to development@QuoteWerks.com, however. Some of the question that you had about the font color and the comment lines and whatnot, we do have some tutorial videos on how to do that. Otherwise, you can definitely give support a call, and they can assist you with that. A few more questions here, and then I think we're going to call it a day. Like I said, we are recording this video. It will be available on our website in the next couple of days. Otherwise, if you have questions, you can always give us a call, 407-248-1481, or send an email to support@QuoteWerks.com. We're a good resource available for you, and it doesn't cost any support minutes when you send an email in to support. But if it is mission critical, definitely give us a call. See, quick question. One of the questions that Zach did have was, how do you get a project phase line from a quote to a ConnectWise op to a ConnectWise project? Actually, that's very simple. Go over the setting one more time real quick here. I'm not going to go into too much detail when it comes to projects, but when it comes to getting this part over, we can definitely do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go over to products and bundles. And it's a very simple setting, and basically you want to make sure that you are sending over the ConnectWise bundle when it is a group bundle inside of QuoteWerks. And in this case, it's going to be non-recurring. And then lastly, down here at the bottom, got mapping the bundle is project phase. So basically, you'll use a QuoteWerks item type for that group header line to map over to a ConnectWise bundle of is project phase. In my example, I'm making it very simple of just the item type of project phase. So when let's just create a new quote here. Do say, let's go to products here, ConnectWise. Got a lot of services here. Let's see. We'll say this service item here. Go ahead and add that one. Go ahead and add that one. Go ahead and group these. And in my item type, just make sure that you're selecting the project phase or whatever you've got mapped. Or what you can do too is if you are using existing predefined bundles, which I highly recommend doing, especially if you're going to be doing these, is make sure that the item type is set inside of the bundle here, in this case, project space. So now, when I save this, actually, let me do one more. Basically, I copied that, append paste. So this way, when it goes over, you'll see that one of them won't be available as a project phase. Remember, in my setup, I set it not to do it by default to create the products, but if you are going this step, obviously you will need to do that. And we'll convert this to an order. Okay, so you'll see that we've got our manual project phase, our bundle that we had. You'll see that the quantities are grayed out, and that's because inside of QuoteWerks I had set not to print them. The whole thing there. And then our not a manual project phase. So let's take a look at that one. You'll notice that it's not a phase product. Okay. So if I go back to this one, it is a phase product. So let's now go to convert to a project, create a new project, and you'll see the first two are phases, but the last one isn't. Okay? Hope that answers your question, Zach, and everybody else as well when it comes to that. All right. Well, I think that's the majority of the questions that everybody had here. Like I said, if you have any other questions, give us a call, send us an email. We've got plenty of tutorial videos on the website. If you are at any ASCII events this year, I should be there as well. So definitely ask questions while you're there. And if you have suggestions for additional tutorial videos, definitely send us an email with that. And follow us on Facebook, too. It's just facebook.com/QuoteWerks. You can see everything that's going on, new features, keep in touch with us, and whatnot as well. All right. Well, thank you very much. You guys have a great day. Like I said, this will be on the website probably in the next week or so.